So ask yourself some questions to determine if you may be under the influence of dark spirits or thoughts. Do you feel depressed? Do you suffer from sudden emotional outbursts or anger or sadness? Do you often have thoughts that aren't good about yourself or others? Asking yourself inwardly these questions and reflecting on the answers is a good way to begin noticing what might be influencing your life to create any of these lower states of consciousness. Your awareness on these subjects and many others will be the catalyst to illuminate your mind into a greater field of energetic consciousness, expanding your knowledge and your abilities. These are some tools to squelch the darkness. As in all magical arts, there are always tools to assist us when we need a little something more to help stomp on dark forces. Your will, coupled with your imagination, is your most powerful weapon. I cannot express this enough. But a little bit of 3D earthy things can help too. White objects contain the 7 rays of color for this existence. White is the light frequency of the sunlight and also coincides with the 7 rays of our chakras. Wearing white is a symbol of purity and unity with the one light. It is used in rituals of white magic and therefore used for good. Bringing white light into your imagination during meditation or during an attack by an astral entity can protect you against the darkness. Your mind helps co-create this world and is the most powerful force once you comprehend your own divinity and true nature. Sage and Palo Santo. Burning sage and Palo Santo has long been used to clear energy from personal spaces. And sage is used in Native American ceremonies because the smoke travels through dimensions. Smoldering sage or Palo Santo makes the lower dark spirits run for the hills, as I have experienced lately, leaving their influence on you behind, at least temporarily. Because as the smoke dissipates, they will eventually creep back into your world. The process of saging and smudging begins by lighting the sage until it begins to smolder continually without having to be relit. It is best to keep a plate or bowl beneath the burning stick in order to collect the falling ash. If you're smudging or burning this in your house, you begin the practice at the front or the back door, the entry point into your world. Everything is symbolic for a reason. With the sage in your hand, circle clockwise, very important. Clockwise brings in energy. Counterclockwise pushes out energy. What we want to do is we want to bring in the light, the positivity, the changes we wish to see. While stating these positive affirmations of reclaiming your space and casting out darkness, things like love and light only live or dwell here. All darkness must leave. Anything that is commanding with your emotions and intent, like a commanding officer would. Basically, your emotions and your willpower. Once again, I say, and I cannot express it enough, that your willpower is the strongest aspect of your physical being. You will then continue to circle clockwise around the room to each corner and stopping to circle clockwise around each door, window, mirror, black mirror, which are computers, cell phones, TVs, and the like, all of this technology, or anything with a reflective mirror-like surface, because mirrors are portals, and we do not comprehend this. They are portals to other worlds, and when 2 mirrors face each other, they can trap energies and entities into your world. You will also be chanting your mantras and intentions and prayers the entire time that you do this. Doors, windows, mirrors are portals to other planes or dimensions of space and therefore are entry points into your world. Using this force of the will is imperative in any practice of casting out darkness of any kind. Without it, you will be too weak of mind and spirit to challenge such things. So if you need help, then I suggest, at least asking someone who has a stronger will to do these things for you. And I can help people where I can, but obviously for doing the saging and smudging, you have to have someone in your physical space if you're not able or capable to do these things yourself. The use of sigils and radionics. Sigils are symbols or glyphs. And you can create these shapes and seals for protective purposes through using basic alchemy of knowledge you've learned today. The possibilities are limitless. And once you acquire a few basic principles of how our true world works, you will know how to use these tools to your benefit and for the greater good of your own ascension and those around you. So these sigils, I do teach this in another video that I've put out. I believe I have some stuff in my crystal brigade. I teach about the sigil magic and the things that you can actually create in a 2D form that can actually benefit you. And you can place these things around your house. You can bring in different intentions based on sigils that you create, and they're just symbols or seals that can also just work in the background of your life while you do other things. A circle creates a protective barrier or bubble, and the purple is a high frequency color, so you can create a flat purple surface with a circle drawn in it to place under your pillow, for example, to potentially cease nightmares. I acquired this whole concept of, putting a purple item, a purple plate under a pillow from Nikola Tesla, because he had performed this experiment with a purple plate that was placed beneath the pillow of a person who was experiencing sleep difficulties. And then I say we combine this concept with radionics and a sigil, which the power is emanating from a 2D object or shape, and it creates in a 3D plane, which is a tetragrammaton. And it works in these dimensions that we cannot see because we're in a different dimensional state of awareness. But these things actually will work. And I've done this in my life. I've practiced sigil magic, and it has worked to create the things that I wish to have in my life. Very interesting and amazing knowledge. What is radionics? Radionics is the shamanic art and metaphysical science of local and distant manifestation using intentional programmed instruments and patterns to shield and protect and to amplify, to store and elevate frequencies of Reiki, homeopathy, acupuncture of the animate and inanimate form. In its essence, and I just grabbed this from one of the websites really quick, in its essence, it just radiates with your consciousness. Sigils, what are sigils? This is a sigil. Anything you see out here in the world, these logos, these different company logos and designs, patterns, anything of this design is a sigil, is sigil magic, and it's working to incorporate things that people create, but we were never made aware of this again. Simply put, a sigil is a symbolic representation of an energy, a word, an intention statement that, when activated, helps manifest the energy, word, or intention statement that it represents. Working with sigils is an ancient magic that sends a powerful message to your subconscious and to the spirits and the universe to manifest what you desire in life. It reacts again with the tetragrammaton of everything, that ethereal web that is all around us and connected to all things. This is what quantum physics is basically discovering today. All of the tetragrammaton information is in quantum physics. And if you start to learn quantum physics, you will begin to comprehend all of it and how everything is connected. Sigils. Sigils are 2D representations of the magic of symbols you create. Sigils can be made for any purpose at any time. Again, the use of color can be a valuable component when creating your sigil, just like I suggest with the circle on a purple plate. Naturally formed crystals are also a very valuable tool. Crystals can hold unlimited amounts of memory and amplify your thoughts. What is being taught today regarding crystals needs to be rewritten because none of it is actually effective. As Marcel Vogel, who worked for IBM for 27 years, found out and discovered while working with crystals in his lab during that whole process. He had a personal lab at home where he would do experiments as well. But because of his foundations of where he actually came from, he brought his knowledge into his work for IBM. He was actually a person who was studying the consciousness of plants and was also co-founder of The Secret Life of Plants book. So he was around during that time when that book was written, The Secret Life of Plants, and how they found out that plants would respond to our thoughts. They had different types of technological equipment in their labs, and they would connect the plants to all of these machines and get readings. Fascinating information. But then he brought all of that knowledge, even after going to India and studying under a guru to learn this transcendental meditation of Kundalini yoga and other states of awareness. He brought all of that into working with the crystals and found that these crystals are actually containing our consciousness and will hold them there until we release them. This topic is a lengthy topic, and it requires that you study my videos on how to discharge and charge a crystal properly. But you can break psychic attacks and also dispel dark energies through the use of a crystal. And note this, crystals will not work or hold a charge with any smoke in a room or even close by. That's how this dimensional power is very powerful in its nature, and that we don't comprehend it because we were never taught this kind of information. But the Native Americans still know about smoke and what fire does. They can actually speak to their elders through the fire and by doing certain rituals. It's just like the flu powder that they would use, and also speaking with the other entities while they're in the fireplace. They're telling us things in these movies, and we need to go back and watch them as we learn some of these other aspects of our world. So after charging a crystal with love, which you can find those freely in my videos that I have on my channel. If you just go through my uploaded videos, you will find how to discharge and then charge a crystal. And this is very important information. You must always discharge your crystal after you've used it and it's been sitting around for a while. Discharge it before you ever use it on anyone for any purpose. Because as you go throughout your day, the crystal will connect to your consciousness and it will record everything that you do, holding unlimited amounts of power. So the crystal skulls that are out here in the world are absolutely holding something that we need to know. But after charging the crystal with love, you can then dispel the energies by inhaling and holding your breath while envisioning creating a counterclockwise, very important, a counterclockwise golden circle of light with the crystal that is being used as a wand. So you're holding this crystal in your hand, for example, and we'll go over this in a minute too. I'll show you. You'll hold the crystal in your hand, whichever your dominant hand is, and you inhale deeply after you've charged this crystal with love. You then counterclockwise motion your hand in a circle while imagining a golden ring of light appearing in your mind's eye. And then, still holding your breath, you then create a second circle of light within that first circle. And then you grab the crystal with both hands and you strike at the rings that you just created while exhaling very swiftly with your breath. All of this information, you can start to obtain it from my videos and get the sense of what I'm talking about. So let's move forward. Then you grasp the crystal with both hands with a very powerful outward breath through the nostrils. You imagine both of the circles of light collapsing and shrinking, therefore breaking the energetic connection that you wish to dispel. Doing this practice of creating these rings and then collapsing the field of energy with the crystal in your mind's eye, you do this 3 times. Everything operates in threes. This is why Nikola Tesla said that the most powerful things in the universe are the 3, 6, and 9. He would circle a building clockwise 3 times before entering that building. And it was never said, or at least I haven't found the information as to why he did that, but I'm sure that he was dispelling some sort of energy or bringing something in, you know, some sort of affirmation as he did this. Salt. This is another tool you can use. The symbol for salt is a circle with a horizontal line drawn through the middle. Salt is crystalline in structure, and mold or things of darkness cannot grow on it. It is alkaline, and 12 different cell salts are needed for the body to function properly. Most salts are white and thus pure. It is used as a preservative, and it is magical protection against evil and darkness, including demons, the evil eye, vampires, and anything unholy. Agents of evil, as well as people and animals who are bewitched, cannot eat anything salted, according to lore. In magic rituals, salt represents the earth element, spiritual purity, and the transmutation of consciousness to a higher level. Salt is a preservative against the corruption of the body. And what have they been telling us out here in pharmaceutical land? They've been telling us that salt is an evil thing to have, but it's just to get you to not eat any salt, and therefore allowing these things to possess you. Rings of salt can therefore be a powerful force against entities entering into a particular space. The creation of a circle of protection is a divine and ancient practice, as the 2D representation of a circle creates a 3D field of energy, thus creating an invisible sphere of living energy. And this has been done for thousands of years with salt rings. In witchcraft and wizardry, you will see that they will use a circle of salt. To summarize, you are the main force and power to thwart the darkness through joy and love. Other tools you can use are as follows: sage and palo santo, sigils, radionics, natural crystals, and salt. These are just some of the components. There are many, many other things, but it's basically going to all depend on you and your awareness of all of these things. Your imagination to combine all of these energies together too can be a very potent force to thwart these dark powers. They are everywhere right now. They have been summoning them, and we have been allowing them into our world unknowingly to ourselves. So with that being said, are there any of you that have questions? Please raise your hand, your little virtual hand, I guess, if you have questions. All right, Derek.
So with the chakras, I don't know what's my question. I've heard conflicting stuff. So a lot of people have told me that I just have a black hole in my lower chakras. I mean, I know you're supposed to restore them, but like some say it's for defending yourself, and others say that I don't. Do you have any info about that, or if something's missing, or if it's a black hole, like what does that mean? Or
I honestly, I would.
I'm confused.
I'm going to mute for a second. I would. Your chakras are always there. It is the rainbow bridge that is spoken of in the movies, like Thor movies, the rainbow bridge, all this stuff. That's the 7 rays of the connectivity to the ethereal world that we actually have. And you cannot be disconnected from it at any point, except in your consciousness and in your awareness. Now, if someone has stated that you have a black hole, it could be that there is black energy, Saturnian types of energy, that is connected to one or more of your chakras, therefore allowing a what they would call a hole. I wouldn't call it a hole. I would say it's a dark principality of something that needs to be addressed and removed potentially from your life and from your physical form. Because as we have incarnated from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime, the DNA essence contains all of the memories of those lifetimes. And this is why hypnosis can be a very valuable tool in your progression of awareness, because we don't truly trust everything about ourselves that is there within us, the things that we like, for example, what kind of timelines we may feel connected with, you know, more than this timeline that we're experiencing right now, different colors, different, you know, things out here in the world, they actually are coming from the subconscious mind. And they're trying to manifest into the conscious so that you can bring them into your awareness and address the things and say, oh, well, I'm connected to that because of this. But the hypnosis brings about this link, this connecting point through hypnotherapy, where if you have a good hypnotherapist, they can help you be guided through your own thoughts and then explain why you have these feelings or emotions or pains or, nightmares, all kinds of different levels of things that may be happening in your life that are trying to be exposed through the subconscious mind. And I have experienced this through my own sessions and exchanging with other people, that many truths of different lifetimes have been coming forth to present themselves as importance for this lifetime to gain awareness of. I was a seer in a past life. This came out in one of my sessions. I was actually in Alexandria and I was a female, and I had a basin of water that I would then divine for information from. But I was also employed by these pharaohs, and I knew the pharaohs were dark. So I went against their wishes in this life. I don't know what happened to me because I was brought out of the session before I could actually get the whatever the image was that I needed. I needed to get some information from that, but it did help me to see myself as a seer. But in other lives, I've seen other things. And another example before I continue with you, Derek, in this life, I actually experienced as a child, I would have nightmares of falling from a high place and also drowning sometimes. And I would have these nightmares quite frequently growing up through my years, until in about my 20s, it started to kind of dwindle away from my consciousness, but I would still have them occasionally. And then in one of my hypnosis sessions, my very first one that I had, I found that I had a life in Ireland where I threw myself from a cliff. These are real. I didn't necessarily fully believe it, but it blew me away so much that, it was so closely tied to my experience in this life that I started being like, this is absolutely the truth. And then some of the other things from being a practitioner that I've experienced through other clients and having a connectivity with clients that they hadn't met, but then I subsequently got them together. I'm like, that you can't make this kind of stuff up, the connecting points. So we have to learn to trust what's inside of us that's trying to get out at any given moment. And I would suggest, Derek, that, perhaps we need to sit down and go over a list of questions, go through some sort of, I don't know if you need some sort of counseling process or something, just to kind of get more clarity of what you may be experiencing. I mean, if there's something maybe inhibiting your chakras or emotional states, or anything of that nature, we have to learn how to break down these barriers and these walls and masks that we've been placing on ourselves. Because once we get rid of all of that stuff, then we can start operating on more divine frequencies of light, and then helping others to reach their light as well. Does that help you, Derek?
Well, not for that question, but I mean that's good information, but it's kind of a lot of information.
Yeah, we're going to probably be traversing, over a lot of different things, because it's such a short time span that we have. And I know that, you can't always discern something just by what someone may say about a black hole in your chakras. But there could be like a vortex field of energy that is also sucking on you, like vampiric energy. So that could be, what they may be talking about.
Well, I mean that sounds more like, I mean, like I don't have nightmares. I already got over that. Like, I mean, I have physical problems, but I mean, I don't know. Well, I mean, my emotional state is not the problem, which that chakra, it has nothing to do with emotions. That they, and it's, well, yeah. Well, it's just it does focus where to look at, or it's not my emotions or mental, you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's good, as long as you're still maintaining a level of awareness and you can also control any emotional states, then that may not be the thing that's affecting you, like these entities, these thought form entities. It could be a generational type of energy that has attached itself, though, to your chakra and is creating a vortex that is sucking the energy.
Yeah, that sounds more. That feels more right than what like other. Because I mean, I have like my mom's kind of in the Manson family, so there's a lot of weird shit going there, and they've had like red snake serpents put into my room, and that's like a. Apparently, I learned that that's like a Manson thing, and yeah, I don't know. You know.
That's what it sounds like. So you would need more information on how to clear yourself, which I do have some things, some tools that you can use. I was given a long time ago some information. It's all based again on your imagination and your will. These things that I can give you are other tools to go back through generations of your history, and you can employ them. So I can send you a document that I have that will possibly help you, as long as I have your email and, you know, some sort of connecting point, which, you know, I'm sure I have. So that would be a great place to start and to see what may happen from just employing this information in your own life. Now, does somebody else have a question?
I have one. You said that crystals don't like smoke. Well, nobody smokes in our house because I'm anti-smoke. But what if you take the Palo Alto or the sage or something, and you smudge your house? Then you have to recharge all the crystals after that. Does that negate the crystals?
Now, what it does is it stops them from performing in that moment. So if you smudge your house and then you try to use a crystal, it's not going to work for you. And you have to wait until the smoke has cleared completely before you can get this crystal out and start using it for anything.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Estefania? Oh, okay. In the chat. Okay, so in the chat, Estefania says, you mentioned about the Queen having died a year ago. And she also heard that along with the names such as the Pope, politicians, and famous people. What's the origin of this narrative? Well, as we know, those people are part of the trifecta of power of darkness in our worlds. The Vatican has been the head of the snake, relegioning the minds of people to be indoctrinated and to basically hold them captivated in fear. And that therefore, you know, people can't find their power when they're just operating on these levels of the lower chakras, survival, fear, you know, all these base levels of consciousness. So the origin of the narrative originated through, obviously there's online tales of such things. You know, no one can prove this as a fact. And I have heard this, but I feel that it is truth because we actually did not see any evidence of the real Queen after a certain point when they shut down Buckingham Palace. After they closed Buckingham Palace last year for renovation purposes was when I started hearing that they had the Queen and they had the Pope and they had everybody involved in all of this myriad of human trafficking around the world. They were taking them to Gitmo, apparently. There was another channel that I followed where this man only looked at the different flight patterns of airplanes. And he said that Guantanamo Bay, especially, was very, very active with flights in and out of what they call Gitmo. And what most people or some people may not know about his story about all of this, the Vatican was created as a foundation to be the principality and ruler of this magical practice that we've seen around. Now, the Queen herself was actually not British. She was Germanic. Her last name was, I believe she was part of the Bauer family, which is the Red Shield family, which is also the Rothschilds. And there was Lord Mayor Rothschild, who then became part of the Vatican. He became the administrator of the monies for the Vatican. So he was like the accountant for the Vatican. And he had 5 sons that he sent to 5 different countries to set up the banking system, the world banking system that we've been using. And all of that was done as a practice of black magic. The banking system that we know of today is part of black magic. They did not have this banking system back during the golden age. So, that's a lot of information. And so when you listen to things online, you just have to be mindful. Take in what you will. As a practice, what I do for myself, for example, I will just take the knowledge in, and it will be stored in like a library of information until I come across something else that maybe I can cross-reference with. And as long as you maintain this openness to receiving any information, you will gain knowledge and wisdom of all kinds of things. But because we've not been curious, we've lost that aspect.
Okay,
So,
I'm going to put a picture up and see if you, I don't know if it's, I guess it's, yeah, can you
I can't see it.
see it right there? You see the eyes? It's a person's face.
Okay, yeah.
Do they look strange or different or funny to you?
Yeah.
That's King Charles, our new King of England.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure he's demonic.
Well, the eyes are really weird. I mean, they look like white and opaque.
Well, we're going to see many strange things as we go into the age of Aquarius. It's coming, people. It's coming. That's why I need you to know this stuff. You need you to know this stuff. And I need each one of you to go and spread this stuff. There are things coming at us that we are not aware of, and we need to gain this knowledge now and to awaken others that have the opportunity and the need for these tools. We need to get this stuff out. But thanks for sharing, Nancy. I haven't seen that. Kim,
Well, I copied it off of television. The camera caught him in the car riding by and looking out at the crowd. And I thought, that is strange. So I tried to get a copy, but unfortunately the TV's the lines showed up in there from the TV.
Yeah, I mean, that's the distortion, it picks up all of the different elements from the flicker rate.
Right.
Estefania, just wanted to continue. I totally agree with what you said. I'm a big follower of Santos Bonacci, who I also follow. He will teach you all about astrotheology, everything you wanted to know. Just go to Mr. Astrotheology channel on YouTube. Santos Bonacci he actually left Australia and he moved to Mexico. He basically defected, I think, with good reason, because he's now down in one of the main ports there. I can't think of it right now, but he's down in one of like the touristy areas, but he's kind of removed from that. And he teaches all of his wisdom as well as some other people. So he has the syncretism school. So it's combining all of these different philosophies and teachings, yoga practice, all these things. He has actually began the process of what needs to be done around the world, where all of the teachings of the mystery schools come back together in one. So, but thank you for sharing that, Nancy. I'm going to just move on. I wonder what the purpose of all this is. You mean for Santos Bonacci's things, Estefania? What happened with the actual people that died? The people are gone. The queen, they have been sent back probably to hell where they came. And I'm talking about the HEL of Yggdrasil. Because if you guys haven't seen my information on Yggdrasil, the Norse cosmology of our world, I do suggest go and watch that. All of the videos that I put out about Yggdrasil are fascinating because they tie directly into some of the aspects of our world that are foundational truths. The pattern of some of the realms in Yggdrasil actually form the tree of life. So I don't think that it's necessarily just a metaphor or anything like that, or just symbolic. I think that we have some real truths, because there's a lot of hidden stuff, and I'm that person that goes after them.
How do we find your channel to look at all of these things?
It's Era of My Ways. I'll go get the link real quick.
Air, A-I-R or
E,
E-R-R?
no, it's E-R-A, Era.
Era.
Yeah, because it's Aquarius. I'm an Aquarian. I'm a double Aquarian.
I know that. Remember when I first met you, I said, you're an Aquarius. I knew it.
Yeah, obviously.
Ron.
I can't stop. It's so bizarre. I can't stop doing what I do. I'm going to just put it in the chat, Nancy. You can go click on the link. But you can just peruse all the way through my uploaded videos to find all kinds of information. I'm trying to share as much as I can with people because I've traversed so many different things throughout the past 15 years or so that is overwhelming me. And I know that it needs to come out and be shared with others. So, Estefania, did you have anything else that you wanted to say about that before I move on? She just put Puerto Modelo. You guys can go and see in the chat what she's placed there. Okay, all right, great. We're going to move on. Okay, Kim, you had your hand up?
Am I unmuted? Yes. So I was just wondering, like you were saying about Saturn in your chart. So obviously Saturn, like, would that be like the Capricorn energy? And what should we be noticing about Saturn in our chart? Like, what is it that it's telling us with Saturn in our chart in those placements?
Saturn in our chart. So this is what I have to say about Saturn, because I want to know more about different principalities in the world. This is a rare book. This was the second printing that I actually acquired. It was $75 for this book. And it's going to be such a rare book in the future that this thing's going to probably be worth some money, which I didn't buy it for that. I bought it for the knowledge contained within it. This is Cult of the Black Cube of Saturn. This image represented on the front, this is Kronos. This is Father Time. This is also death. So he's the Grim Reaper and he's eating his children. That's what Saturn does, is he eats his children. He eats all aspect of his children. Now, whether this was an actual person at one point in the past, it was one of the great gods, you know, Kronos is one of the gods, the Greek gods that was there back in time. But this is a Saturnian grimoire, which means it's a Saturnian spell book. But it's also got a lot of information about what Saturn actually is and why these people who worship Satan or Saturn are working with these principalities of darkness. And as you can see, the book is black, representing Saturn as well. Saturn eats his children is sort of a term that they use. Let me go get this chart for you so that you can comprehend this, because it's a lot of information, and you'll find this in Mr. Astrotheology. I'm sure he has a lot of information on this, but and I am just getting into all of this and beginning with very basic knowledge. It is all aspects of yourself, though. Let me see if I can find the chart that I'm looking for. And Saturn energy. Let's see. That's not it. I think I put that in the world cosmologies. Let me get it over here. It's in the world cosmology stuff. Okay, I'm going to open this one. Let me share screen. This is Dante. Dante is one of the easiest ones to sort of kind of go over, even though it's hard to see like this. Okay, clicking on this.
Why does he have Jerusalem below hell? I noticed that when you had that up earlier.
Yes, that is a very important question. Let me just go over the Saturn thing first, Nancy, and I'll come back to Jerusalem, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so as above, so below. As we know, there is a planetary icon in the heavens that is called Saturn. And all of these different spheres of influence have been pointed out in the night sky above our head and also illuminate with the rest of the stars. So as above our head, Saturn has its etheric influence on us as one of the points of light that comes into our field of energy to create our embodiment. But Saturn is also expressed as the gate that all souls pass through to exit this life. So it is a divine essence or energy. It is a consciousness as well. Once we start comprehending the nature of our reality, we'll start becoming more aware that everything in this existence has a consciousness, because everything is connected. Even a rock has consciousness. It was created by consciousness at some point during the creation of everything. So this in your chart, you may not have Saturn in your chart as one of your main aspects of your personality. But Saturn represents different energetic things like a challenger. He will also favor you if it's in a certain angle or a certain position in one of the houses of your chart. I am not the purveyor of all of this knowledge, but I am sure that you can find more about Saturn's influence through Mr. Astrotheology, which is Santos Bonacci's channel. And I do encourage everyone to go and learn more about all of these principalities, because these energies, these spheres, are what is called, what do they call it now? The rings of power. There is a series that is on Amazon Prime that's called Rings of Power, and it's another series based on Lord of the Rings. Saturn at the top here is also Lord of the Rings, because within all of Saturn's form here is actually a complete circle, and I don't have the entire image here. Saturn contains all of the other rings. He has eaten his children, basically. This is the metaphor of this. But what they are doing out here, the principalities of darkness, they are eating the children to bring in that honor to Saturn. They are bringing in, when you do these things, see, this is how it's done. When you're acting in the nature of what Saturn is, or even physically was potentially back in old ancient, we're talking beyond ancient times, this potentially could have been a being that then became a heavenly body over our heads, because everything in existence is consciousness. And when you grasp this concept, you will then open your eyes to another world of the spirit realm. You know, that's why we have Native Americans and all them. They've maintained all of this knowledge of the spirit realm, but we are lost. We're lost. We're left in the dark, and we don't know what's going on. We're trying to regain this knowledge. So all of these are going to be different influences in your life chart. And when you have a birth chart done, for example, they're going to point out the most influential aspects. They're going to present themselves first, so that very first aspect in your natal chart is going to be the sun. The sun is the light. The sun is what you bring in as a child. You came and entered this world in a certain celestial heavenly alignment. These stars have energetic influence on you the moment and time that you were born. So the day, the month, the year, and the time of when you were born actually formed your characteristics inside of you. They are your personality, and they are tied to you and bound to you through these different spheres of influence. Now, each influence has a certain energy or a certain frequency or vibration. You have the moon, and the moon is feminine, but it has potentially different frequencies that you are not aware of. And I just suggest everyone try to have, even if it's a free chart online, try to start delving into this knowledge to gain awareness and insight into your own personality and the energies that affect your life. And then you'll know how to balance it through yin and yang practices and through anything else, any other means of, the knowledge of how to balance the energy when it's coming in at a certain point. Because these timelines, as these are the wandering stars of the heavens. And as they wander, they create different energies. And those energies affect our lives daily, but we are not aware. We are still in the darkness of ignorance and we're floundering around. And that's why I'm not the purveyor of all of this knowledge, but Santos Bonacci has been doing this for, many years now. And he has a lot of information. He's a wealth of knowledge based on all of these types of spiritual and scientific foundations. And he will take you for a ride. And honestly, a lot of this stuff's going to go over your head, but don't get discouraged because you have to start somewhere with this stuff. And I suggest just starting with your natal chart, your astrology chart, and then starting from there and then learning what each aspect of these planetary spheres has in your life. And then you'll like becoming more illuminated in the knowledge of this. But and I hope, Kim, that kind of answers your questions. Did you have any more questions about that?
Just like, yeah. So just say, like, as you said, like the sun sign, that's like the identity sign. So if you've got Saturnian, like Capricorn or Aquarius influences in your sun sign, what does that like? Is that bad? Like,
No,
what does it mean?
No, it's not necessarily bad. So, okay, each constellation represents a certain pattern or frequency. And the constellations are the patterns of energy that are over our heads at any time throughout the day and throughout the years. And throughout these cycles of time that they call the Great Wheel of Time, which is a 26,000 year cycle, which we have not been imparted the wisdom of. But that has been affecting us recently since we're leaving the age of Pisces and going into the age of Aquarius. The age of Aquarius is about the awakening and coming up the astral body as well as the physical body, beginning at the shins. So we're kind of at the ankles and going up the shins. And we're leaving the 2 feet, which were the foundation of all of this deception that we've been buried in for so long. I'll get another chart so that you can see this real quick, because it's going to be important. Just kind of look at this and see what I'm talking about as I'm speaking about it. And I have covered this in some of my other videos. Actually, that's not the wheel that I want. Let me get a different wheel. This one, chart number 9. Number 9 is my favorite one because it's very simple. All right, so what I'm talking about with all of this astrology stuff, we have been in the age of Pisces, which has been a lower states of consciousness because we're down here in the 2 feet. This is going to be the representation of our physical body and our celestial body. Okay, as we are growing in spirit and consciousness and awareness. We fell from our highest state, which was the crown chakra in Aries. We fell from the highest state back down to the 2 feet. And that means that we are trying to find the path again from all of the deception that was created and amassed after the age of Aries passed on. And we entered into the age of Pisces. These dark magi who came from Atlantis were able to then descend in their consciousness, but to take control of our world by deception and forceful means. So we left this highest state. It was a beautiful, beautiful time. During the age of Gemini was the beginning of the gold spring. And that's when we were all unified as one in this world. There was no sickness. There was no poverty and things of this nature. You still had Saturn because you're always going to have other consciousnesses down the ladder of consciousness that are still learning and being born into the world. So Saturn was still, an aspect, but people didn't know all of these lower states that we're experiencing right now. because everyone was sharing and loving and kind to each other. And it was a beautiful utopia of what the world could be, and it will be again in the future. The height of that utopia is right here in this gold spring, where this highest point is, this little shiny point right here. That is the highest point, but it is also the pivotal point where the scales shifted. And in Taurus, they began their principalities of darkness by sacrificing people to gain more power, because as we ascend, like we're ascending right now, we're going to ascend through this celestial body and the spirit body and the physical body back up to the crown chakra. But this is going to take 26,000 years, give or take some years, because each age is 2,150 years, give or take, depending on the size of the constellation in the heavens above us. And so this goes around. This is called the Wheel of Time. And this snake that's in the middle here that circles the Wheel of Time, it's a snake or a serpent, but it eats its tail and is representing the recycle process. That we recycle in order to gain and obtain more wisdom, more light, more knowledge, or if we so choose, we gain darkness, ignorance, these things, the principalities of darkness, because as above, so below, as within, so without. And you have the yin and yang here in the center, which is representing the male and female energies. There's wisdom and darkness, which is ignorance. There's also good and bad. But all of these things are held in the balance of this great wheel of time. And so everything becomes cyclical. We will come back again to this moment of ignorance in another 26,000 years during the age of Pisces. It'll be in a different form. We won't necessarily see the same exact things in the world, but it will absolutely come back and happen again in a very similar way, where all of the knowledge is taken. And then as spirits and souls throughout this world, we have to then regain the awareness and the foundations and march back around this wheel of the recycle trap, what they call the recycle trap, until we can gain enough knowledge and illumination and awareness of our divine essence to where we choose whether to incarnate or not. And we can choose to disincarnate or to incarnate at will. That is the goal of all of this game. This is a game of life, and it is a school, and we have to learn and teach at the same time through our progression of soul. So we're over here, we're between the two ages of Pisces and Aquarius, and we're on the cusp, because we're starting to come out of the winter that has been experienced for so long. This is the darkness, the dark winter of the soul and of the world, with the trees that are dying now and all of the things that are dying and becoming septic because of Saturnian energy and influence. But this has been also imposed by those principalities of darkness, the dark magi who fell from Atlantis. So the 2 feet are symbolic to me. This is how I read into it. I haven't listened to Santos's interpretation of the 2 feet, looking for the path. They are walking the path again, beginning the path back to awareness of self and the awareness of everything all around us, and how we are connected to one divine essence and spiritual force. But we have to find that essence again. And that's where we are going into the age of Aquarius. We're starting to define that is within us. What is it to be spiritual? And we're going to go up these 2 columns. So, and you can see out in the world right now, there's 2 columns that are happening in the world, where one is septic or artificial intelligence, and the other one is the natural world that some of us wish to remain in. And we're also learning about frequencies, which is representative by the age of Aquarius, and these sine waves, which are supposed to represent water, but they're actually, we're learning the frequencies of everything again, the foundations. Very important to learn the symbols of all of these. And I'm just going to end this really quickly with this discussion that I'm having with this. I don't want to take up too much time, but in Gemini, see, look at how perfect this symbol is. The equilibrium, the harmony, the balance, the parallel lines mean that everything is in equilibrium. Then you get to Taurus. This is where the division began. And the circle of life and the foundational safety circle of everything, the sphere of influence, began to become divided by these two thorns or two horns that are protruding out from this circle of unity. And then what happens is you get to Aries, and the foundations of knowledge begin to spout. This is supposed to be a ram's horn symbol, but it to me spoke that it was a fountain, and the two fountains of knowledge were dividing into two. That beautiful world, this entire gold spring, was becoming more divided as the light path, the path of goodness and virtue, was divided by the dark path that began to form. And then this winter represents that dark path. And us, we're trying to find that path back to our spiritual body and back up to the crown chakra, which is the unification, or the pyramid, the middle pyramid, which this is a scalar wave shape. And that scalar wave shape is what the tetragrammaton is actually made of. So I know that's it in a nutshell. Like, it's a lot of information. And I'm sorry, if I tend to just ramble on with this, but to truly comprehend it, we have to go over stuff.
No, it's good.
But yeah, each one of these constellations has an energy. So when you go and you delve into what your sun sign is, your sun is going to enter into one of these signs. And then that energy of that sign can be found online, and you can start researching about your sun. And then when your line, you'll see your birth chart, and it'll be all of these lines of angles of influence. Those are the angles of all of those 7 circles. The Lords of the Rings, those kinds of things. Those are going to be the influential spheres in your life, and the lines that connect to them as connecting points will be your sun sign is first, and then it connects to something else in your chart, and then it connects to the moon, and then it connects to something else, and it'll bounce around to all of these different aspects of personality. And as you read the energies that each of these signs represents, that will be the aspect of yourself. And you will be able to, you'll start shaking your head. You'll be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that this is true. Like, I do these things, and that's the energy of whatever that sign is. So this chart is an absolute truth, and it will never change, never, because it is in the heavens, and you cannot change the stars. And so our ancient forefathers and mothers knew that certain signs and symbols were energetic in their nature and could be read at one glance, which was what they used to do. They didn't used to speak like us. They used signs and symbols and could also telepathically communicate because they had higher awareness, which we can gain. We can gain all of this back. It's an amazing time to be alive.
So, right.
It really is, though. Okay. I'm sorry to have gotten long-winded on that one. Okay, so
You were going to tell me why Jerusalem is below hell.
yes, so Jerusalem. Let's go into that real quick over this. Now, what I found in this was very fascinating, because Jerusalem is actually an aspect of hell. It is actually the realm that is below hell. And that means that all of these dark spirits in Jerusalem are an aspect of hell. And that in the dark magi of Israel, or Isis, Ra, and El, they knew what Jerusalem meant, and they created it as hell on earth. So we're dealing with that. And that's exactly where all of this stuff is emanating from. But they had to establish Israel. The Rothschilds actually established Israel. Like they were helping people make this establishment only just about 70 years ago. There is no ancient Israel. It was ancient Palestine. And even before that, it was something else ancient. But the Palestinians owned where Israel is now. And these usurpers came in and said that they marched around the world looking for a place to establish the promised land for those chosen ones. You know, this is all just the smoke and mirrors that they have passed on. And they're black magi, but they needed to establish this foundation of lies somewhere. So they put this place, and then they started selling the story of ancient Israel. There is no ancient Israel. And if you go back far enough, you will find this. I actually started digging and I was like, oh my gosh, because Jordan Maxwell mentioned this. He's like, there is no ancient Israel. And this was only established about 70 years ago by these elitists. And it's a lie that we need to realize and bring the truth out into the forefront. So that is that. But yeah, there is a place in Jerusalem. You can go and watch my video about the Jerusalem syndrome, where people become fanatical about religion when they visit Jerusalem. True story.
Wasn't the Balfour Agreement?
Yeah, I mean, that's another part of it, that whole Balfour thing. That name, honestly, Balfour sounds,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
it sounds like a demon. It sounds like something that I've crossed in reading about demons, and like it's a name of a demon. But I'd have to go and do research on that. But yeah, so Trump was part of that Balfour Agreement. He actually signed some documents. So that's why we can't get too distracted with what's happening out in the world with all of the politicians. Now, I do feel like we do have agents of light that are playing and you know, pretending to be the aspect of dark in order to infiltrate the darkness. Just like the darkness has infiltrated the light world, so does the light have to infiltrate the dark. And there's some strange stuff that revolves around Trump. So, but we're not going to get into all of that stuff tonight. Does that answer your question though, Nancy?
It does. Thank you very much. I was looking at that. I wish I knew how to do astrology. All my cards I love to play with and all. I've never really gotten into that. But I do know I've got 3 planets in my sun in Scorpio and 3 in my moon in Taurus. Does that mean I'm at opposite ends with myself? Am I opposing myself?
Well, you know, I am just like everyone else. I'm trying to learn all this stuff. So I am not the foremost authority, but you know, I can only share what I've learned and then point you in a direction to go try to learn more so that we can try to bring about truth and help each other.
Well, I love to read about it, but you know, it's too mathematical for me when it comes to trying to figure out your charts.
Yeah, it's funky. It is definitely funky, and it is a science, but it's a truthful science, and it's something we should all do introspection on. Does anybody else have questions?
This has been very enlightening, I will say that.
Well, the whole point is to enlighten you, but to also give you tools. And if any of you have any questions at any point, you know, about using the tools or anything else, because there's more stuff out here. I can only give you so much in, you know, a couple hours because there's so much information. I mean, you should see all the books that I have. I got Jerry's book recently, and, you know, they talk about the entities, and if you have entities, you can tell by just doing the inward questions. Like if something's trying to gnaw at you and bring you down a little bit, like a thought form just enters all of a sudden and says, oh, well, you know, they're trying to corrupt your mind with something. Oh, well, oh, they're just being ugly to you, or they're doing something to you, or you're not good enough. Then you can just tell them, you know, in your mind, just go, that's a lie. And you just keep moving and you just push them out. That's the force of the will. See, they don't delve down this occult realm. Jerry and Sherry, they haven't delved into the occult world of knowledge that I have. But when you take your power back by standing in your power and your will, which is at your sacral chakra, and just denouncing these things and just being like, you know, you're a liar and I'm not listening to you inside your own head, then you can just stop it. But a lot of people don't have the willpower, and especially once they get on the pharmaceutical drugs, or if they're, you know, addicted to drugs or alcohol or any of these things, it's very much harder for them to do something. Go ahead, Derek.
I got one too.
I just you brought this up. You said will is the most important thing, right? So World War III spells will. That's what is going on right now. Like,
Yes,
But
absolutely. Absolutely. You know, this stuff is real.
But you know, we know we're in deep trouble, and we know that evil is really, you know, grabbing everything it can and trying to control all of us. But how do we, I mean, sometimes people that we think are good people turn out not to be good people after. How do we find somebody who can really help us at a, you know, people have to get up at a level where they can help us, because a lot of us think like we do and believe a lot of the things like you're talking about here at all, but they don't know what to do about it. At a larger level, you say if millions of us got together, but you have to have somebody who's going to unite millions of you to think like that and do something.
We're already doing it, Nancy. That's the beauty to it all. We're already doing it. There's so many different grassroots efforts on many different levels.